Good afternoon, my name is Rosina, this is Jazz Hot Baby, and welcome to Faedathon. Yep, you heard that right. Faedathon is a fairy and folklore themed readathon that I am hosting this October. It's going to be going from the 12th to the 24th, so that is 2 weeks. Ideally, you will choose 3 or 4 prompts either based off the prompts or the type of fairy or creature. But if you want to do more or less than that, that's fine. You will also be able to double up. Now, I'll get into the meat of things now. This will be hosted on here and on my Twitter, so if you want to check me out, it is the Jazz Hot Baby again, and that is linked below. So now I will go over the prompts so you guys can have a good idea what they're about. So I will post the big image here. However, while I'm filming this, I don't actually know how readable that's going to be, if you know what I mean. So if you can't read it all, that's fine. I will go into detail with the individual prompts, and again, the image will also be posted on my Twitter, where you're about to click and obviously expand it if you want a better idea. So as I said, I am going to list all the prompts, and I am going to give you a couple, well, not examples, but I'm going to explain what sort of book you can pick. So the first prompt is a selkie. We all love seals, they're completely adorable, but the problem for selkies is that people love them both as human and as seals. So choose a book with a transformation. Now, obviously, you could take this in the literal sense. It could be a book about an actual selkie or a werewolf or something like that. Or it can be if the book is focused on the transformation of the person over time, so how they change, or even they're pretending to be someone else throughout this book. So that sort of undercover or pretending to be someone else to get involved. Any of those sort of things, like that could fit multiple genres. So just as long as there's some sort of change, whether it is emotional, personal, or physical, it counts. Now our next prompt is the Lane and She. They may be beautiful and they may inspire you, but be careful because what they take from you might be worse. So choose a book with a beautiful cover. This is a pretty simple prompt. Find a cover you think is gorgeous and choose it. Let's just hope that it's just as beautiful as engaging as Elaine and She, but it won't quite drain everything from you. We then have a banshee. The wailing woman is either seen as young with red hair or an old hag. Either way, this woman wants to warn you of death. So please read a book with death in the blurb. Pretty simple. As long as it mentions some sort of death, whether it's in the past, whether it is something that is going to happen, as long as it is clear the death is going to be an important plot point, you can read that book. Now for our next prompt, we've all heard of ogres and their massive size. So this is pretty simple. Just read a book over 500 pages. Now this is the prompt that probably scares me the most, but if you've got a chonker on your TBR, or if you're just someone who enjoys reading really thick literary or fantasy books, this prompt is the chance for you to pick those up. We're now coming up to the Dullahan. Now, the Dullahan is linked with a banshee. They will travel along their night to carry warnings of death. However, this is essentially the Headless Horseman. So please pick a book blindly. Doesn't matter how you do it. It could be a TBR jar. You could literally just reach and pick a book out of your shelf like this. See, blind pick. As long as you don't know what book you're going to be picking up, then it counts. We're now coming on to the will-o-wisps, who tend to travel around dangerous areas at night. They want to lure you in any way they can. So please read a book only at night. But if you do, beware of any light that comes upon you. Pretty simple. You could literally read anything. You could even pick a book that's not technically on your prompt list for this encounter if you have any other TBR or books you need, or you can double it up and just read one of your other books. Just make sure that you're reading it all at night, or at least, this is a little bit of a cheat, if you can just find somewhere dark to read. So only a reading time in the day, shut your curtains, it counts. If you followed the will-o-wisp, you might have found yourself on the ocean and you might be having to deal with the kelpie. Now the kelpie rides fast and strong, so you have to make sure you can catch up with them. So for this prompt, we want you to pick a fast read. Pretty self-explanatory. Pick up a book that you know will not take you very long to read. Because if you're lingering around on a certain book, then you might miss the chance to catch your ride. From a favourite ride through the water to a favourite lives in Wales on the water, we now have the Ragged Announ. Now, the Ragged Announ is known for living on the water due to the fact that the water can make the best illusions. So we want you to pick a book that you think best reflects yourself. Now, this one's a bit more complicated. If you are queer, if you are a person of colour, if you have a certain disability, or you come from a certain religion, then it might be pretty easy for you to find yourself within a book. However, even if you haven't, then just pick up a book that you think you could see yourself in, because you never know whether real life or the book is the true illusion. We're going to shrink down now with a solitary male, Fae, and we are going to talk a bit about the Ghillie-Dhu. Now, the Ghillie-Dhu are well known for being good with kids, so we want you to read a middle grade to see if you are just as good with them. A middle grade, if you don't know, is a book aimed at kids between 8 and 12, and there's obviously a good variety of genres too. So give it a middle grade a go, and maybe you'll see that you're just as good with kids as the Ghillie-Dhu. Just watch out for those fairy dolls that you can buy sometimes, because you really do not want to invite a fae into your house with your kids. Speaking of what happens when you invite a fae in your house, and you might be winding up to dealing with a changeling. Now, changelings are pretty well known compared to some of these fae, but watch out, because though they speak few words, they are incredibly dangerous. So we want you to read a secret book. And when people discover that's true name, then we'll watch it go up in smoke. Essentially, what we mean by a secret book is pick a book but don't tell any of us what it is. You must give us a few clues, whether this is a picture or part of the cover, whether this is a clue to the title or themes within it. You leave us these clues, and we have to guess what it is. When we've guessed correctly, then you show us the book, and your dreams of a secret book have gone up in smoke. If things have gone up in smoke, then you might want to head to the Anglo-Scottish border, and you might want to get into a fight with a red cap. We all know the fae are dangerous in general, but the red cap is one step ahead of that. So for that, we want you to read a book that's dark. Whether this is a book with dark in the title, whether this is a book with a dark cover, or whether this is a book with very dark themes, is completely up to you. As long as you can somehow say that it's dark, it counts. We're now moving away from the fae, and we are moving on to some folklore. So let's start with a piece of folklore that is in every aspect of the world, even if it's under some different name, and this is Jack. Jack is the typical character that you can come up with. From Jack and the Beanstalk to Jack and Jill, or even Jack Sprat, Jack is everywhere to be found. So read a book with your favourite trope in. Jack is the archetypical main character. He is curious, he is explorative, and he often gets into trouble. So pick a book that you know would be your perfect partner in crime. We're then going on to something that, if possible, is even more famous than Jack, and that is the Loch Ness Monster. Now, everyone thinks they have an opinion on whether Nessie is real or whether Nessie is fake. People even have opinions on whether they would find Nessie. So for this, we want you to post a poll somewhere. Pick a few books and ask your friends to pick which one, because we know if they have an opinion on Nessie, they probably have an opinion on what you should be reading too. From the Loch to the Norfolk coast, we are now moving to the Black Shark. Now, the Black Shark has a couple of different varieties even across the world, but essentially this is a black spectral dog that warns of death and is incredibly dangerous. So for this, what better than to stick by the coast and read a book that is set on or by the water. This means you could be reading about anything from mermaids and selkies to just pirates on a ship or a coastal town. No matter what you'd prefer to read, settle down on the beach and enjoy your book. Hopefully you won't have to see the Black Shark. From one dangerous animal to another, we now have the Beast of Bodmin Moor. Now, no one knows quite what Beast of Bodmin Moor is. In fact, most people think it's possibly an escaped cat, but we can't know that for certain. So for this, we want you to read a book with an animal on the cover. This could be in the title, or it could just be the shape of an animal or something animal related on the cover. Either way, we want you to settle down somewhere safe, somewhere warm, and then if you've got an animal friend to cuddle up with, then even more the better. That's it for all our prompts. As I said before, you don't have to read all of them. If you want to, then fine. However, if you just want to read a few or you want to double up, then that's perfectly fine. Either way, we want everyone to have a lot of fun with this readathon. This should give you the chance to maybe find out about a few more fae and folklore creatures that you didn't know about before. And though we don't have any prompts specific to fae and folklore, if you want to read books that fit those themes, then all the more better. Please share what they are. We want you to share your TBRs, we want you to share if you are participating, and we want you to have a hell of a lot of fun. Remember to tag #Faedathon if you are posting on Twitter or Instagram. And also you can always tag me at @readathon on both those platforms too if you want me to see. Either way, I will be hosting reading sprints throughout this, and I am incredibly excited. So welcome to Faerieland, guys, and settle in, because you are in for a long 2 weeks. If you've enjoyed watching this video, then maybe leave a comment below, especially if you are participating. Either way, please remember to like, subscribe and leave a comment, and I will see you guys in a few weeks.